Attention, due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 37 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And I am your host, Brian. And this is my first official recording, not counting our Thanksgiving commentary, live from the Glass Enclosed Studios in Amityville, New York.
So have you seen any ghosts yet, or demons?
Not yet, but they could be. We still kind of living out of boxes, so they could be still hiding. You know, they may wait until we get really settled yet. So, you know, literally there could be ghosts walking around, and I wouldn't notice at this point.
Nice. Well, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're actually recording this before Thanksgiving, but by the time it lands, you will have already been stuffed with turkey, and I will have probably eaten way too much and gained about 15 pounds.
Yeah, same here. I usually go to my cousins, and it's pretty much a nonstop eating and drink fest from the moment we get there. So, but this is a good movie. Hopefully, if you guys are braving the Black Friday shopping, this our treat today, which is the movie Black Sabbath, will be perfect for that, accompanying you all around the stores. And I don't know about you, but I gave up on the Black Friday shopping in person years ago because it was pretty much I got literally trapped on an aisle in Target where I was literally up on a shelf and trapped, and I couldn't get out for about 15 minutes.
Oh my god.
So that was when there were so many carts, there were so many people. I just literally sat there and waited till I got a place, and I left. And I vowed after that, I said no more stores. So it's all online shopping for me on Black Friday.
Yeah, I usually do online. Sometimes I'll get a wild hair and I'll go out in it, but I usually wait until like afternoon. And usually it's not too bad if you wait a little while. I don't do that 5 o'clock in the morning crap.
No doorbusters.
No doorbusters for me. By the time I get there, everything's already gone. So I don't get the greatest deals, but at least I get to shop in peace. So
I got to tell you though, there are some times I remember back when I was doing that. Certain stores would actually. It's funny, they wouldn't actually have all the merchandise out that they say they do, and so like usually later in the day, sometimes they do like kind of a restock on some, obviously not the doorbusters, but some of the other sale items. Mm-hmm. And you never know it. Well, because sometimes you'll get or some people bring everything in a frantic mess, and it's all sat up there, and they decide not to get it, and then it comes back. So sometimes going later is a little better. Even though I don't know how this became Civil Gore shopping edition, but I went off tangent. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, you're out there shopping for horror Blu-rays, obviously.
That's true, and I was going to bring it back to that by saying a lot of times with Blu-rays, like Black Friday at Best Buy, if you're one of the rewards members, usually you get early access to that. Sometimes I think right now I have early access on some of the stuff, but I think all those. The Blu-ray movies and stuff and video games and all that, I think I get it like I think the night before it appears online, so you can usually get that stuff early without leaving the nice warm home.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
the movie this week is one of my favorite anthologies, and rewatching it for the podcast, I loved it even more than I already did. So I can't wait to talk about it. That's gonna be a really fun one. If you haven't seen it, definitely track it down. It's a lot of fun, and Shudder has the actual original version with the original Italian audio, which is really cool.
Yeah, it was actually kind of fun to do that. But we're getting a little. I know we're kind of a little ahead of ourselves. We usually don't start talking about the movie yet because we have something very important.
Yes, it is our first chop. Okay, so kind of a big first chop this week because last week, of course, we took a week off, I would say, because we did the Thankskilling commentary. And for us, a commentary is not as labor-intensive as a regular show. So kind of last week was our mini vacation, and ironically, the week of Thanksgiving is where we're actually back going full throttle again.
Yeah. We do think backwards here at Civil Gore.
So it's just one of the weird quirks of podcast recording and scheduling. But so this week we really have 2 weeks worth of first chop saved up essentially, and I'm going to start things off with a great little documentary I saw on Shudder called Spookers. And as you know, I'm always on the lookout for stuff about haunts, Travel Channel stuff about haunts, even though Halloween is over. I know, but still I had to keep it going just a little bit longer. So I watched this documentary. Spookers is about a haunt in New Zealand, which is it bills itself as a scream park, and it is open year-round, and it is privately owned by a family. And this documentary is just about them and how they got started and how they run the day-to-day operations of this giant haunt in New Zealand, which is really, really cool.
That's cool. I'm gonna watch that actually, because I mean, as you know, we're big haunt fans, and it's some of those documentaries are some of my favorite ones to watch too, because you know that a lot of stuff goes into those haunts, but it's kind of fun to see, especially when it's something like that where it's like one of those year-round ones. Yeah, really, what goes into those things to put those on and make them so spectacular.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny seeing some of the interviews, like one of the owners, she doesn't really even like horror movies. But, she's sitting there on the phone ordering severed heads and fake blood and all this stuff. And she's kind of, it's just a business to her,
Be funny, like, I said, a severed arm, not a leg. Return.
Yeah, this cost me an arm and a leg, literally.
Oh.
I knew that was coming.
Well, we got to get back to the puns. We haven't had many in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. We're pun deprived.
Yeah, in fact, the one I had a good one in one of the episodes, but we had to cut it out because since I was so tired, it basically I flubbed it, and we didn't catch it until Tim did his editing and realized that I really didn't make much sense, even though he knew what I meant. You guys probably would not.
It hurt to cut that one because I love a good pun or even a bad pun. So
right, puns are good either way.
Yeah, check that one out on Shudder. Spookers.
Yeah. So, and I watched a movie on I believe it was Amazon. It was one I was just trying to grab something because I did not have the internet, so I kind of was tapping off of the like the public Wi-Fi kind of thing. But I downloaded a movie called Dead Body off of Amazon Prime. It was actually done recently. I think it was only about a year or so ago. It might have been even earlier this year. It was released, but. It was kind of like one of those typical 80s group horror films where this group of kids, they go up there as sort of like a reunion to this cabin, and there's the typical horror tropes there. It's like the kind of the outsider, and they kind of make it like a whodunit. There's like the nerdy guy, the goody two shoes, the girl that everyone wants. The whole thing.
Yeah.
And kind of basically stuff you've seen before, But then one of the characters says, "Oh, you know what? They're all drinking. Let's play this game called Dead Body, where I guess you pass around a piece of paper and one person is the killer, but nobody knows who it is. So you have to like hide and you pick the person." It's funny because I've now seen it like 2.5 weeks ago, so I'm trying to remember all of the details. But the effects were decent. I mean, it was okay. It was somewhat like the funny thing is I'm trying to think of what I enjoyed about it, and it like. If I go into all the details, you wouldn't think you would enjoy it, but it actually was enjoyable. Like, it held my interest the whole time. I don't know what it was. Was the because I guess the performances weren't bad. If the performances were bad, this thing would have been probably a train wreck. That's a fun thing about Amazon Prime. They just have a mess of horror movies, and you never know what you're gonna get out of it. I've seen some pitiful ones like. That we've seen. There's some gems. This one I kind of put in the middle, but definitely worth watching if you come across it.
Well, speaking of train wrecks,
good segue. You're right. You like how we did that, right?
Thanks for setting me up. So I'm gonna get on my soapbox. Here we go. I saw The Dark Tower.
Uh-oh.
Dun dun dun.
And I bought The Dark Tower based on Tim's recommendation. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say it yet. He didn't say it.
Yeah. Speaking of train wrecks, I try not to use too much profanity on Civil Gore, but this was a fucking train wreck.
Wow.
And I apologize to anybody who liked this movie. I know we have some listeners that I know of that really liked it, and that's fine. And I even know some Stephen King fans who liked it. I don't know how, but I do. So I went in with an open mind because not everybody I talked to hated this movie. I absolutely hated this movie. I would be surprised if any of the writers of this film had ever even been in the same room as a Dark Tower book, because that is how alienated it is from the source material.
Right, and you were a big fan of the source material. So.
Yeah, so I've read all of the Dark Tower books, some repeatedly, and I've read all the graphic novel comic adaptations. There's a huge comic series of Dark Tower stuff that goes into the prequel. And man, this movie was just a mess. And there's no fault on Idris Elba because he's spectacular in whatever he does. He's one of my favorite actors, so no fault on him. He did the best he could with what he was given. Matthew McConaughey, he was being Matthew McConaughey, basically.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he was all right.
Oh, I missed an opportunity.
You missed a big opportunity.
I can't say that he was all right because he kind of wasn't.
God, he wasn't even his own thing.
He was just kind of phoning it in. He can do that that role in his sleep. But man, this movie was a mess. It literally, if you had taken the character names out of it, I don't know that I would even realize it was a Dark Tower movie.
Wow, it was that off, huh?
It was that bad. Basically, I've told other people this before. It was like if you took something like Game of Thrones or The Lord of the Rings and you just distilled it into a 90-minute movie, barely had anything to do with the novels at all, and made it came off. It honestly came off to me like a young adult novel adaptation. I don't mean to disparage that necessarily because The Hunger Games was great. But, I mean, this was more like Maze Runner or one of those that's kind of like, it wasn't that big of a hit or whatever. It just came off as this, like, young adult. I don't even know how to describe it. It just had
like
had
the WB presents Dark Tower.
Yeah, exactly. Something. And I don't mean that disparagingly because there's a lot of those shows I really enjoy.
I know I know. We should probably say it that way,
but no, it just was the completely wrong vibe. They focused on Jake for the entire movie, other than the gunslinger. This is Roland's story. The Dark Tower is Roland's story. And Jake plays a significant role, don't get me wrong, but he's not the center of the story. It'd almost be like taking The Lord of the Rings and you make the center of the story Gandalf or Sam instead of Frodo. It was that far off. And then they had this weird stuff where they would put in these like secondary minor characters that were barely in the books and made them a significant part of the story. And I'm like, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. There were little things in there that were obviously tailored for really hardcore fans, probably even more hardcore than I was. But if you're going to make a movie that distills 7 or 8 books down into 90 minutes, why are you throwing that in there? It's going to go over the heads of everybody that's going to go to see this movie.
Yeah, I wonder why they chose that way.
It was bizarre. It was completely bizarre. And I just watched the whole movie just shaking my head. Like, I just could not even grasp what was going on. And they were doing stuff that was not anywhere remotely, even anywhere close to in the books at all. And then they left out, oh God, I can't even describe what they left out. Hundreds of hours of content is what they left out. So, I was just very disappointed. I went in honestly thinking I would find some redeeming qualities to it. That I could come back and say, it wasn't the greatest movie. It wasn't a good adaptation. It's not the adaptation I wanted. But I liked this part, and I liked that part. There was nothing about this movie I liked. I hated all of it.
Wow.
Rant off.
Yikes. Wow, you don't hear Tim go off like that very often on a movie.
Sorry.
And look at some of the things that we've watched for this podcast.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't even like it on a non-Dark Tower movie level. Like, I didn't even like it just as a movie. It just wasn't good. No.
So you're saying I should watch it as soon as possible, right?
Yeah. I would say you bought yourself a great beer coaster.
Wow. So maybe we'll make that a throw-in for whoever wins Paul Blart 2.
I would rather watch Paul Blart 2.
Oh, my God. Oh, there's a kiss of death if I ever heard one. Wow.
Oh, my gosh. Let's go to more positive news.
Yeah. So we got another Halloween 2018 update, and this one's very interesting. But at least it came from a great source, Danny McBride, of course, one of the writers behind this, and he described it. He kind of wanted to, because I guess this was in response to people hearing about how they it's going to be kind of like a sequel, but also reimagining and kind of wiping out the history after 2. But he went on to say that you have to picture it as almost as if it's kind of an alternate reality, and if the original movie ended slightly differently. So I don't know what that means, but the article that I read, I think it might have been on Bloody Disgusting. They kind of said, so it seems like they might be changing a little bit of the first film too, which and then Danny McBride was like the quote. He goes, "I just want to make something good. I don't want anyone to hate me." When they mean that, I'm wondering if it's something where, when he says it ends differently, maybe that just, I really don't even know. I mean, unless they just kind of like at that point, Laurie, maybe they go in a flashback what happens right after the first movie ended, which kind of twists your view of how that ended. That's what I'm thinking. I don't think it's more of a metaphorical what if it ended slightly differently.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're going to touch that sacred cow, especially with John Carpenter involved. I wouldn't think they would significantly change fans' perception of the first movie, because that's holy. That would be like going back and changing Star Wars, George Lucas.
I know.
Anyway,
right?
yeah, I was originally a little perturbed by this whole concept of basically ignoring Halloween 2. And I'm still kind of iffy and on the fence, but for the franchise as a whole, I don't know that I mind the fact that they're just kind of starting from scratch, because this series has so much baggage, and I say that as a fan of a lot of the sequels, 3, 4, 5, and there's certain parts of the others that I still like, and H2O obviously, but there's so much baggage, especially with Rob Zombie's remakes and everything, that it kind of feels okay to me to kind of go back and just start fresh and just say, hey, you know what? Forget all that stuff. Let's just make a good movie.
Right.
To follow up the original. I think I'm okay with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I got to tell you, it's definitely a bold choice to kind of to continue it from the original again, because of, like you said, there's so much history in between. But the thing is like, you got Jamie Lee Curtis back. You got John Carpenter's blessing and his score back. You have all the pieces that you're going to need if you were going to do this. Now, if they were going to say, okay, this is a continuation of the original horror film, and we're replacing Jamie Lee Curtis with Swoozie Kurtz or something.
Right.
I would have a problem with it, but you have the pieces there. I mean, the only thing they could do possibly is maybe they get the people that did Rogue One and maybe somehow regenerate Donald Pleasance, but it is supposed to be 40 years later, so he'd be like in 105 or whatever.
Because here's the thing, and we'll get to it in a little bit when I talk about Jigsaw, but here's the thing, that for people that are criticizing this, it's like, what do you honestly expect? You're either going to get this, or you're going to get another crap sequel churned out by people that had nothing to do with the original movie. So you're probably not going to get any better than this. This is probably as good as it gets. So you kind of have to be grateful for that. Yeah,
I mean, and you could be starting. This could kick off the franchise to be back now. I have a feeling like Jamie Lee is. This is her one, and that's it.
Right.
Like, I don't think she'd come back after, whether she survives this movie or not. But they do have they're with Judy Greer's in talks to play her daughter, which did not make Danielle Harris too happy. I don't know if you saw that whole little social media thing. It's kind of funny, but I don't know. I think it's a little sour grapes. I mean, at least they could at some level they should have offered her at least a cameo there somewhere. She's been in both of the reimagining of Rob Zombie and the original trilogy, original series. So they should have found a way to get her in there somewhere. But you never know. She could get invited back for a cameo or something.
Yeah. I mean, I've got thoughts on that. A cameo would be fine. I think sometimes it's asking too much to have somebody come back and take on a lead role like that.
Oh, I don't think she should have played her daughter. I think because they're trying to get rid of that storyline, obviously, and start completely fresh. And I'm kind of, I'm all I know is I'm really excited, like at to see what they're actually going to do, because obviously it's, we know it's 40 years later. We know it's Jamie Lee Curtis is Laurie Strode again. She's got a daughter now. Whether it's going to be, I can't imagine them just doing kind of like a rehash of the first one, just with people in different places. I kind of have a feeling this is going to be, I mean, I just get this vibe with Danny McBride that this is going to be as like almost like however long, hour and a half, like battle between Laurie and Michael. Like, I think this is almost going to be different than all the Halloween. I don't know. I just have the gut feeling this is going to be like a knockout, like brawl, like with her kind of like fighting him the whole way, not like just waiting till the end, a build up of a body count. I just think there's going to be interaction between Michael and Laurie throughout this film.
I think it's going to be
what they need.
Yeah, I think it's going to be total fan service, but I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, no, like, but you know, I could picture I could see like just scenes like remember like the end of H2O, that last 20 minutes of her and Michael kind of, I could picture like the whole movie kind of having some kind of vibe like that, and that would be you can't ask for more than that. I think that would be great.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So,
well, my backlog project is back on.
yay!
After a long hiatus. So now I'm not doing the random right now. I'm just trying to catch up and knock out the quick wins at this point. So I'm just knocking out stuff that did not have commentaries or extras and stuff like that. So basically, I'm running through my entire Universal collection right now, and which, by the way, is on sale right now for like $20. All the box sets.
Really? On Amazon?
Yeah, Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy. I got to get Werewolf or Wolfman.
Is it on Amazon?
Yep, on Amazon. $20.
Oh, I got to pick those up.
That's the new lowest price.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna pick both those up because like I said, I only have the Mummy, so I need Frankenstein. 3. Oh, I need 3 of them.
Yep. So
Okay.
I got to get the Wolfman's the only one I don't have. They have not released on Blu-ray the Creature from the Black Lagoon or the Invisible Man set. Those came out on DVD though, so they are coming at some point.
Yeah, they'll be there.
But so the first one up was Dracula's Daughter, and this is a direct sequel, and I do mean direct sequel to 1931 Dracula. And when I say direct sequel, it literally takes place moments after Dracula ended. And what's kind of fascinating is I don't know that I'd ever heard of this movie, even though it's a direct sequel to Dracula, one of the most famous horror movies of all time.
Yeah, who knew we had kids, you know?
Yeah, but it's actually a very underrated movie. I really enjoyed it. It stars Gloria Holden, who plays Dracula's daughter. Obviously, she's super creepy in this. And it's got these weird lesbian overtones to it, which is weird for the time.
Right, because nowadays that's commonplace. Any female
yeah.
vampire is always, you know.
Right, but this was, I mean, you think about it, this is the 30s.
Yeah.
And she's seductively, nibbling at a woman's neck and stuff. I was like kind of blown away. Like, whoa, okay. Can't believe they got away with this in these kind of movies. But I highly recommend that one. It's actually pretty entertaining. Obviously, Bela Lugosi does not star in it. I think he was originally slated to star. And then I watched the follow-up to that, which was Son of Dracula, starring Lon Chaney Jr. as Dracula, which is as funny as it sounds. He does.
Yeah, why did he go into that role? That's weird.
Does. It's the only vampire role he's ever done, and he makes the worst Dracula. He looks like somebody's dad dressed up in a Dracula cape and didn't even try. He just threw the cape on, and he's got too friendly a face to play that role. He needs to be under makeup because he just plays it straight in this, and he's not frightening at all whatsoever. And it's actually fairly entertaining in the same vein as other Universal monster movies. I mean, they're all fairly entertaining at some level. And it was just interesting to see him play a vampire, since you know him from all his other non-vampire roles. But and it has some hilarious bat effects, which are just comical. You rubber bat on a string type stuff.
Oh God, really?
Yeah. But here's what's interesting. So this was the movie that started the whole Alucard thing, where Dracula spells his name backwards and nobody gets it,
Oh God, like Mr. Wait, was it Alucard? Yeah,
Alucard. Oh,
Alucard, yeah.
Wait a minute. I mean, a guy figures it out early in this movie, but it's still funny. Like, it kicked off that running joke, which has gone through all these vampire films throughout history. So if you want to see the origin of that, it's in this movie.
And didn't they then, like, later on, they went to Dr. Dracula or something?
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, it's not as good. I wouldn't recommend it over Dracula's Daughter, but if you have the box set, it's worth watching just to see Lon Chaney Jr. as a vampire, which does not work at all. But, so kind of check it out as an oddity, if nothing else.
Well, our next thing on our first chop here is Fright Rags. We're revisiting them again. As you remember, I had gotten my Chainsaw and Dave t-shirt from them. Well, they came out with now an officially licensed Creepshow collection.
Ooh.
Which is fantastic. There are some great shirts. There's really cool one where the little kids reading the comic and all the different characters are behind him.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted.
Yeah, I want that one. There's one with the creature coming out of the crate. There's the famous Bedelia, I want my cake one, which looks great. those water zombie T-shirts, which Tim and I are still in negotiations. There, we're a little upset that they did not contact us to see if they would
For
buy
hashtag
the
water
rights.
zombies.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do that. Then there's a couple. There's a Jordy Verrill one where it says, "Oh, Jordy, you lunkhead," which I mean, basically, you could drop. I want to drop like $1,000 and get all these shirts or whatever, and it's not that much, but it's like there's probably about like I think 8 shirts. So yeah, but and they're all fantastic. They're all really well done in like that comic book style, which is just fantastic. There's one cool one too. I don't know if you saw the Saturday Morning Creep Show where they're all done in looks like the Saturday morning cartoon version of all the characters.
Yeah,
which is cool. Really cool. And even Bedelia's on there, like the cake, her head is on there.
I like the fact that they not only had like the mainstream Creepshow shirt with the kid and the comic and the characters around, but they also did like the deep cuts, like the water zombies just by themselves.
Yeah, like they like
cool.
That's what I like about Fright Rags. They go for the fans. They totally they go for shirts that you'd never find anywhere else. Probably that weren't officially. I mean, you can find unofficial licensed ones, but these are the officially licensed ones. And they go they take the license to the cool level and make sure you got all that you want. And I just noticed actually on their site. It says our biggest, and they put all in caps, sale of the year is coming. So obviously that's Black Friday. It's 3 days, 2 hours, and 50 minutes away. So I don't know about you guys, but I am going to make sure I pop on that day, a Black Friday, and see what they got. Because especially if they have like a buy one, get one free or something, I will be jumping on these shirts easily. I mean, they range from like $27. Actually, you know what? Sorry. They're all $27 except for... They have the baseball tee, which is the 3/4 sleeve one, which is $37 of that artwork we said about the kid reading the comic, and then there's a zippered hoodie with that on the back of it, that artwork, and that's $47.
Yeah, they're a little pricey, but for the artwork you're getting, they're super cool shirts.
It's worth the money. It's as far as I'm concerned. I'll spend $27 on a T-shirt of this quality, and my Chainsaw and Dave, it's a good quality shirt, and the artwork is fantastic on it. So you're getting what you pay for. It's not some knockoff, unlicensed crap that you can sometimes find at places. This is good stuff.
Well, I finally got out to see Jigsaw.
Tim has been a busy boy.
I'm a busy boy. I took one for the team. So, Jigsaw. So, going in, my expectations were fairly low because I expected just another run-of-the-mill Saw movie. Although I was quietly hoping this would do something to flip the franchise on its head, or introduce some cool new concept that could just keep the franchise going. The former was the case. This is just another unremarkable Saw movie, unfortunately. It doesn't really bring anything new to the table. This movie could have been made 10 years ago, and it would have fit right in with every other Saw sequel. Yeah, I was a little let down. It's even smaller in scope in some ways. I think there's only 5 victims, and that dwindles pretty quickly, as you might imagine. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it had... It had the typical Saw plot complexity of just weird twists that make no sense and elaborate setups that would never happen in real life. So if you like that about the Saw movies, you'll be right at home here. But yeah, disappointing. Worth watching if you're a completionist for the series, but wait till it comes out on Blu-ray. No need to go to the theater to see this one at all.
Yeah, it's almost like they with everything else that's going out there, they're trying to get this retro vibe, but you can't get too retro when the original is not that long ago. you know? So,
and I don't think this one did super well at the box office either.
Yeah, no, I don't think it did well at all, actually.
I would not be surprised if this is the last Saw movie we ever see.
Yeah, unless they completely, reimagine it maybe like 20 years from now or something. But even then, I don't know if this will work back then. We don't know what's current then. I mean, it worked, I think, when it came out. Yeah. But it's kind of hard to keep rehashing the same thing. So.
Yep. So we had, in honor of Thanksgiving, which I know is already passed, but since this episode is dropping just one day later, we decided we would, since we didn't get a chance last week with the commentary, we decided to do a little segment where we express thanks for what we are thankful for in horror.
Yes.
So you want to kick it off, Brian?
Sure. One of the things, first I'll start with is I think the resurgence of the icons we grew up with in one form or another. Like, perfect example, we know we're getting a new Halloween movie. That's exciting. The Leatherface came out. Even Pennywise, if you wanna throw that in there. Friday the 13th. It's got the video game, and me and Tim's prediction, there will be another movie. We know this, so that's something to me that's thankful that it's like years later now. The stuff that kind of got me loving horror in my formative years is all coming back and still relevant in some form or another, and that to me is great.
Yeah, that's a good one. I can one day introduce my kids to the same horror icons I grew up with, maybe in a different form, maybe in a slightly more modern form, but it's neat to know that those movies made such a lasting impact even 30, 40 years later.
Right. I mean, and it's in the culture. Like that Friday the 13th video game, you play it and you hear kids that are like 11 and 12 on the headset, and they're young kids, and I'm like, what are you doing? Do you even know what you're playing?
Yeah, they still know who Jason is. You see him dressed up for Halloween.
Yep.
Yeah.
The fact that they have kids' costumes of all these characters, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I saw a sexy Freddy costume, which I was a little confused by.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't really get that. But anyway,
yeah.
I'm thankful for Blu-ray collectors, and I'll tell
You're
you
welcome.
why. Yeah, thanks, Brian. Keeping the industry single-handedly going.
I really might be.
No, and here's why. I am not a huge physical media fan. I've almost totally gone to ebooks or Audible. I stream all my music through Amazon Unlimited. I don't buy CDs anymore. Video games, most of my video games are all digital purchases. I don't like swapping disc out. So for me to be heaping praise upon physical media is kind of rare, but there's a reason for it, and that is simple. Digital media in terms of movies has not caught up to physical quality at all. It's not even close. You can't really get true Blu-ray quality by streaming off Netflix. And then you also miss out on all the great extras. You typically don't get the commentaries. There are some exceptions, but you typically don't get the commentaries, the features, that kind of thing that you do on a physical disc. So I'm really grateful that there are collectors out there that have demanded that quality and those extras for the movies that they love, so that we can have an industry that keeps producing physical Blu-rays. Because it would have been very easy if people just didn't care or didn't show up or didn't buy this stuff to have everything just go digital, and then we're stuck with watching these movies in inferior quality for however long it takes.
Right. For
bandwidth to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you will get that kind of quality, but the thing is especially you and I can attest. Some of our best memories were going through video stores when we were a kid and seeing that box art that caught your eye and that was so legendary. Even movies we never saw, you just know from, you name it, and the box art pops into your head. Well, once everything starts going digital and you don't have any of that, you're going to lose that thing. I like holding a physical case in my hand. And like, I had so much fun when I was going, I say fun loosely because the packing was nearly destroyed me. But when I was going through the boxes of VHS tapes that I was, getting, just to find old videotapes of horror movies, and then my DVDs and Blu-rays, and I'm just like, this is, as much as I like the ease of, don't get me wrong, I love the fact that I can lay in bed with my iPad or sit at work at lunch with an iPad and watch, a horror movie or any other movie at the time. But yeah, there's something about like the physical thing and all those special features and all those cool additions you can get, and and seriously, how are you gonna get like a cool action figure, like that Silent Night Deadly Night set that's coming out with a digital copy? I mean, they can mail it to you after you order it, but it's not the same.
No. Well, and the other thing that's important about that is it's putting these movies that might otherwise be forgotten back in people's hands at some of the best they've ever looked. because they've been remastered. I mean, we got some on the Discmemberment this week, the 4K remasters of this movie that I guarantee you on a digital platform you probably would have never heard of. Because on digital platforms, what are you going to see? You're going to see the new releases.
Yep.
Whatever's popular at the moment is what's going to trickle to the top. It's just like the iTunes store. You're not going to see the game from 4 years ago. You're going to see the game from 4 days ago.
Right.
So these Blu-ray collector's editions and stuff keep those movies in the public consciousness and really give a platform. Like, man, some of these Hammer movies that I've been watching on Blu-ray and stuff are just so much fun to go back and revisit those. There's no way you're going to see that on a digital platform without like some heavy searching.
Right, and plus most of these things come out with the digital copy with it. That's what I love the best, when you get the physical disc and you also get the digital copy. I remember, I think it was at one point Disney was the first company to really do that consistently, and that's why I love that, because most of the times you buy the DVD. Yeah, I remember, some of them will even come with 3, with the Blu-ray, DVD, and digital copy. I don't even think you need the DVD anymore. It's the Blu-ray and digital copy. To me, those are my favorite discs because I got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, you can physically hold it in your hand, but if you're on the travel or on the go, you can pull it up in your digital library and go to town. So
Yep.
So
especially with that new service, with that Movies Anywhere, did you see that? Although they're having some rights issues with certain, I guess, companies, but once they get that straightened out, which is inevitable, that's going to be a fantastic read. Like right now, of course, Friday the 13th, but which is a living rights hell to try and figure out. They only have a couple on. I think it's like Jason. I think Freddy vs. Jason is one of them, and I think the new Friday the 13th was the one that transferred over. All my other ones are still on my regular digital copy through iTunes, but
yeah, that's a cool concept where you basically, and we're going to get there eventually. They just have to. Yeah, we're in uncharted territory in terms of business models, but they'll figure it out eventually.
Oh yeah. It's just a matter of time.
And then we want to do kind of a combo thank you, right, Brian?
Yeah, because we got a couple of definitely doing this podcast. We realize it's not just really getting just going up there every week and grabbing them. There's a lot of people that assist in this, whether they realize it or not. But for example, obviously, definitely gotta thank some of our amazing wives who put up with Tim and I donating hours on end to watch horror movies and go into rooms and close doors and record for a couple of hours. So that thank you guys, Julie and Olivia, because we know we would not be able to do that without your guys' support.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think, essentially I'm taking one night away from my family to do this podcast, and so that sacrifice is very much appreciated.
Yeah, and then of course there's all the different people that help out with the show. My good friend Paul, who made our great sound effects for the first chop and dismemberment, and my brother Seth for going to the conventions, and
our promoter, Seth.
Yeah, Seth. I mean, our super promoter. He's every time I see him, he's telling me he got another person listening to
publicist.
The show. Yeah, so we'll definitely have him on once we do. When we get to Evil Dead. And then a good old Steve Cohn, who is like our video game connoisseur, who's always giving us little tidbits on stuff, and more stuff that he sends me that I can even recall. But a lot of it, sometimes I catch up on already. But he's always, anything he sees horror, basically, he's sending it to me in some way, in a text, email, a Facebook message, or something. And then, of course, Mike and EB from Coaster Radio, who was basically an inspiration, to us. It shows how a podcast can be done, and they've always offered us advice throughout the way, even up and through a couple of weeks ago when we were doing our interview.
Right.
We spent about an hour with Mike testing stuff, and he was giving us tips. So, and obviously if it wasn't for them, Tim and I wouldn't even have met.
Yeah, exactly.
So there would be no Civil Gore, so... And then, of course, our listeners out there, some are definitely more participation than others, which we can't thank you enough, like Cody and Kenny, who are always giving feedback and letting us know, like, hey, I did this, and Cody, like, killing it in the challenge. And with the horror, like, basically Cody and Tim are the only two I know that completed the challenge that we know of.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
So.
and also shout out to our other friends who run podcasts that have promoted us on their show. I've already mentioned Mike and EB with coasterradio.com, Adam on Theme Park Families, Ride This One.
I think Chip Sims and Dorks might have tweeted something for us.
Yeah, yeah. All those, and obviously we got tons of Twitter followers that retweet us and help us out and like us and stuff and on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So we really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, if we're forgetting someone, we apologize.
Yeah.
But and then I'm going to send a little thank you. I did not tell him, but I want to definitely to my co-host and good friend Tim, because he does a lot, the majority of the heavy lifting for this podcast. He does all the editing. He does all the prep work for the rundown and everything. And so obviously thank you, Tim, because I definitely wanted to get some of this editing down so I could take some of the burden off of you.
No worries. You've got your own burdens with moving right now.
but that's temporary. So so guys, after all the great quality you hear and all the stuff that those great just show descriptions, that is all Tim basically doing all that extra work. So thank you, Tim.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a labor of love for sure. All right, guys. Well, let's get into our dismemberment, which is a little short this week, but let's check it out.
Wait, no, please, God. No, don't cut off, bud.
Okay, these are the Blu-ray releases for November 28th. And with our commentary last week, I realized we didn't cue you in on the Blu-ray releases, but there was not much of note.
Yeah,
there was some cool stuff, but it was all kind of fringe type stuff. So you go.
Yeah, there wasn't anything, and it wasn't even anything much worth like making jokes about it.
No, not really. And this one, I actually forgot to put our little summaries in there, but we'll wing it because these are some pretty well-known movies. At least two of the three are. The first one up is my pick of the week, and Brian, I'm assuming is probably your pick of the week.
Yeah, it has to be, just because because Get Out has been out for a while now, and that's coming up on the list. So it was between that and this one, but I figured I went with this one since this is a brand new release. I think there was a kind of a bare bones edition already on Blu-ray of this, but definitely not to this caliber of what seems like it's coming on this edition.
No, this is another fantastic Scream Factory Collector's Edition of Misery from 1990. The great Stephen King adaptation, probably one of the better Stephen King adaptations.
Yes, it pretty much made Kathy Bates' career. I mean, she had done stuff before this, but after this, this just catapulted her into the spotlight.
Yeah, it absolutely did. You're right.
I mean, to the point of where she still frightens me, just even when she's in a jovial role.
Yeah,
you just get that
Well, she's so great on American Horror Story too, which in no small part to this role. In Misery, but this one has a brand new 4K restoration. It's got interviews. It has 2 audio commentaries. Scream Factory is great about putting commentaries, and a ton of extras. I mean, this is a disc that will keep you busy for hours, and definitely one that's high on my Christmas wish list.
Yeah, this is one. I'm definitely curbing, my Blu-ray budget here after the move, but this is definitely one of those that I've kind of earmarked to in the budget to get, because this is something that I want my collection. I believe I have it on DVD, but it's the old version of it, and so with this and with Scream Factory, it's hard not to bite on a Scream Factory release of a movie that especially one of these iconic movies.
Yeah, I will go on record saying you can buy any Scream Factory Collector's Edition, sight unseen. I don't care what the movie is, and you will get your money's worth.
Oh, yeah, every time. Even if you don't like the movie, there's probably enough special features on there to justify what you spent.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one up is called Death Dream from 1974, also known as Dead of Night, which is how you may find it listed on IMDb.
But not the real Dead of Night.
Not the Dead of Night that we would like to do at some point, which is that great anthology from 1945. But
yeah, which I lost. I forgot because it was on my DVR, and when we switched to places, we did a new. We had to get a new cable box, and so that's gone in the abyss of cyberspace.
Yeah, I need to check this one out though, because as you know, I'm kind of obsessed with horror movies from 1974, which was the year I was born. So,
the birth of Tim. It was the Dead of Night, but the birth of Tim.
Yeah. So anyway, this one is, I was kind of surprised. It's just packed with features. It has a new 2K restoration. It has 2 commentaries and like a whole laundry list of features, which, having not really heard of this movie, I was kind of surprised at the amount of extras on this disc. But also, if you look at the IMDb score for this one, it's got a respectable 6.8, which is pretty darn good for a horror movie. Yeah. And there's not much of a summary. It just says a young man killed in Vietnam inexplicably returns home as a zombie.
So, interesting.
I don't know. It's got a really cool poster. I'm gonna have to track this one down because
kind of like a Pet Cemetery vibe.
Yeah,
there.
it was directed by Bob Clark.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So I mean,
we have to watch this. I wonder if this will eventually appear on Shudder or something.
Yeah, you guys know Bob Clark did one of my favorite movies of all time, A Christmas Story.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely went a different way here, but yeah.
Yeah, he did Porky's. Yeah, he did have some misfires. He did Baby Geniuses.
Yeah, you can't have it. They all can't hit.
But I mean, respect. I mean, he's a great director, so I'm really curious about this one.
Yeah, no, this might be one we'll have to investigate, possibly a future Civil Gore episode.
Yeah, and then the last one on the list was a re-release of Get Out from this year, and this is a Best Buy Steelbook edition. I looked at the extras. I don't think there's anything extra. I think it's just a Steelbook edition.
Yeah, and I can't justify picking that a pick of the week, no matter how much I love that film, just because they're giving it a Steelbook.
No, and I said, we've said before, I don't really like the Steelbooks anyway. They don't fit on my shelf the same way. I think they're sold out online now, but this week Best Buy had Get Out for $5.
Oh, wow.
The Blu-ray for $5. They also had Young Frankenstein for $5. So if you can find them locally, I would pick them up. I already checked online; they're already sold out, but it may be worth going and grab that if you don't.
Yeah, I think I have the Young Frankenstein in a box set already. That's why I didn't jump on that one.
Theatrical releases for this Friday, November 24th. Nothing out there. It's kind of a slow week.
Yeah, well, you know why? I don't think many things come out that week traditionally, right? Because I think usually it's movie. A lot of people use that Thanksgiving Day and the day after Thanksgiving, to sometimes they'll go see movies. Like I remember I think I saw Hook or something, or Home Alone 2, one of those, on like the day after Thanksgiving. So I think it's one of those things where people just try and go see a movie. More of like as a family event, not such much about a big new release. They just kind of see what's there.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't think the theater needs to have something new that weekend. Basically,
Yeah, they kind of save the new release for like Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a tradition for a lot of people to go see a brand new movie on Christmas,
right?
Kind of thing. But yeah, so yeah, nothing there on the theatrical front. But that's okay because I need a little. I need a little catch-up time.
Yeah,
anyway.
Well, I need to still go. I'm a little behind. I still need to get out there and see Thor, Justice League, and then I think I'm going to see the Murder in the Orient Express. So I have those 3 movies I got to see. Obviously, just prepping me back into the theater for November, December 14th, that Thursday night.
I've already got my tickets for the 7:00 showing.
Yes, I basically have 5 shows I'm seeing of Last Jedi between Thursday night through Saturday.
Jeez.
So I'm a little obsessed. Yes.
That's awesome.
But
okay, so our movie of the week, of course, is Black Sabbath from 1963. And yes, the band Black Sabbath did get their name from this movie.
Yes, I read that. I was reading about that, and that is awesome. It was funny, I guess, basically because they were the way I read it was that I guess they were having a concert. And they said there were more people in line to go see the movie than the concert. So they thought it might have been...
I believe they were named Earth before this.
Right, yeah. They had like a really weird name.
So can you imagine Ozzy Osbourne used to front a band called Earth?
Yeah, no, I don't think
some
so.
alternate dimension. Worked.
Yeah.
That would have not had the same ring to it. And that kind of took them down the whole kind of horror aspect of their band.
Right, yeah, I mean...
So that's kind of cool. This was directed by Mario Bava, who did A Bay of Blood, which is fantastic. Check that one out on Shudder. That's like a precursor to Friday the 13th. It's a great slasher.
Oh, I got to see that.
He did Black Sunday, Lisa and the Devil. You probably recognize some of these names.
Yeah.
It stars Michel Mercier. Some of these are kind of French names. So I'll probably murder them. Boris Karloff.
Hey, you got that one good.
And Lydia Alfonsi.
Hey. Oh, not that Fonzie.
No, not that Fonzie. Screenplay by Marcelo Fondato. Adapting stories. These are kind of famous stories from.
Yeah, I didn't realize this until I just read this here.
Yeah, Anton Chekhov, Alexei Tolstoy, and Guy de Maupassant.
Very good. But you had to go to all kind of languages there.
Yeah. So, what's interesting about this movie is Boris Karloff opens the movie kind of introducing it, sort of like the Crypt Keeper, if you will.
Yeah, kind of breaking the fourth wall a couple times. He did.
Yeah, but he's I was interested because when I saw the introduction, I said, this plays out a lot like his old Thriller TV series. Boris Karloff actually did an anthology TV series that he hosted. And he kind of played the Rod Serling character, or the Alfred Hitchcock character, who basically narrated the intro and outro. But when I looked it up when Thriller aired, it aired from 1960 to 1962. So it actually predated this movie.
Oh, okay.
So they were definitely going for that vibe of having him open this up, sort of like an actual anthology TV series.
Yeah.
Man, this is such a great anthology. There's only 3 stories, and they did it right. They opened up with probably the weakest of the 3.
Right.
But they're all still fantastic. They're
yeah,
all still
there's
really,
not
really
one
good.
out of the 1 out of the 3. There's not one you say, oh, if only they didn't have that. No, they were all great.
Yeah, this is like one of those albums with no filler. It's good from start to finish.
Right.
And the other thing I thought was really fascinating is that they put the longest segment in the middle.
Right. And
instead of at the end. But it works for this movie because the final segment is just so strong that it deserves to be at the
and it's
close.
The shortest one, I believe.
Yeah, but it's so strong it deserves to be at the end. And the middle kind of makes us feel like a feature film. So, and we'll go to that in a second. But first up, we have The Telephone.
Yes.
Oh, it's worth mentioning that this movie was originally in Italian. So if you see it on Shudder, you'll get the original Italian audio with subtitles, which is fine. I had not seen the movie in that format before. I had already seen the English dub version. So it was kind of cool to go back and see the original audio.
Yeah, and I got to tell you something. The movie was, just because you brought it up, I mean, at this point about the subtitles, normally when you watch a movie with subtitles, it's kind of like, you're kind of like, ugh, you got to read. But for some reason, this movie was so strong between the performances and the cinematography and everything with it, I almost forgot it had subtitles. Because you get so pulled into it, until you said it, I almost forgot. I said, oh my God, you're right. This whole movie was in subtitles. But it was so well done that you just got bought into it, and it never fazed you. It was not a distraction in the least.
No, and it's not a very dialogue intensive movie. It's very visual movie. So this is definitely a good one. Even if you don't like subtitles, and there's people out there who just can't stand reading subtitles, give this one a shot.
Yeah, don't let it deter you in any way.
So The Telephone is about a high-end call girl named Rosie. And she gets back home and she starts receiving these threatening phone calls. And when I say threatening, I mean threatening. I'm not talking about just deep breathing into the phone. I'm talking about, I'm getting ready to kill you.
Yeah, I'm going to watch you. You're going to see me right before you die, kind of thing.
And Brian, this reminded me so much of Scream.
Oh, it totally did. Yeah.
Oh my God. I was sitting there, I was going, did Wes Craven take some inspiration from this film?
He had to have. This first sequence.
This first sequence is just like the opening of Scream. I mean, you have this killer, he knows what she's wearing, he knows what she's doing, he's basically predicting every step she's taking, and he's just continually this phone ringing, and telling her these awful things. So finally, she becomes convinced that this is her ex-pimp, Frank, who has escaped from prison recently. He's coming to track her down and kill her because apparently she believes that she's the one that got him landed in prison.
Yeah, I think she ratted him out, she says.
Yeah, so she's sure that he's coming after her. So she calls on her friend Mary, who is actually her ex-lover, as we find out.
Yeah, which was, I'm surprised, again, that was at that time, I was surprised to see that,
Yeah, but of course it was foreign, so they were a little more, probably a little more liberal in there. But, so she calls Mary panicked, like, even though they're estranged because they've been broken up for for a while now. But she calls her up and basically begs her and says, look, Frank's coming after me. I don't know what to do. I need your help. So Mary ends up coming over to comfort her. And what we find out, plot twist, is that it was Mary all along making the sinister voices, making her think it was Frank, which she did with the use of a handkerchief, which... okay, that's a little... You can suspend your belief a little bit there.
Yeah.
So somehow she had a voice-changing handkerchief. We'll go with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it was Mary all along. She found out Frank escaped from prison, so she decided to basically get back at her old ex-lover and call Rosie up and kind of scare her. Now, here's where things get interesting. Frank actually did escape from prison.
Yeah.
So Frank shows up. He mistakenly kills Mary.
Because remember, she went in her nightgown.
Yeah, that's right. And he mistakenly kills Mary, thinking it was Rosie, and realizes his mistake, turns to find Rosie asleep in bed because she's been given a sedative to calm her nerves. And a fight ensues because Rosie has cleverly hidden a knife in her bed, and she gets to stab Frank to death. So
yeah, and actually, ironically, that was what Mary gave her. Remember, she said, "Here, just in case." She gave her that knife, which was even all the more funny. Is that she gave her the one thing that basically saved her after all that.
Yeah, what I found interesting about this story is it's not like a huge. I guess there's the plot twist of Mary being the voice.
Right.
I guess is the big twist, but there's not that typical ending twist because things kind of play out like you would expect them to.
Right.
But this is interesting in that one of the trivia notes was that this is one of the first instances of the Italian subgenre of giallo films.
Ah, okay. Well, you know what's funny? I kind of like when the way, and I don't know if this was intentional, but when she first calls Mary, and Mary was acting kind of like curt on the phone, I was like, I kind of actually said, I wonder if she's behind this. But I didn't think it was going to be exactly in the way that it was, that she was literally doing the voice. I just thought she was going to come in and try and kill her or something. But then they hit you with that secondary twist, which is why, even though it's not much of a twist, like you said, it kind of plays out like you expect it would. I think it still worked for the people that, like me, who were kind of said, "Oh, I see, it's her," and I thought she's gonna kill her, and then it turned out to be, the whole mistaken identity murder kind of thing. So.
Right, and if you look at it as an early example of that kind of subgenre, it kind of makes sense because it's not necessarily these kind of tales from the crypt like twist endings that we're used to in the anthology series. It's more of kind of a crime thriller.
Right.
Type thing with all these dramatic elements that style of movie is known for. So if you look at it in that respect, it's actually a really, really strong piece, and it actually is really creepy. Like the phone calls and stuff she's getting, it does start to get a little creepy and wear on your nerves a little.
Oh yeah, no, and visually it's like they tease you with her state of dress, and where it's like literally it's just everything is just falling out of out of place, so you almost start to see her pop out of her clothes, and almost as if like you can, you're trying to pull the audience in to see why this, because at this point, remember, you don't know who's really after her yet,
right?
So you're kind of like, all right, what's the big deal with it? And then you could see why someone could, why this guy is obsessed with her. She's always like acting seductively, whether she means it or not, kind of a thing. So it's like, and she's definitely not something bad to look at. So and I think she went on to play some kind of some character that basically they said that kind of typecast her and kind of ruined her career over there in Italy.
Oh wow!
It was a series of movies where it's like she did some role, and it was God, I can't think of it right now, but I read about it. But then she's actually still acting as of a few years ago, though.
Oh wow!
So she was, cool. Yeah. I think I saw her credit up until 2013 or something. She was in something, obviously much older, but but yeah, no, you could tell she was obviously a sex symbol of the time because
Yep.
It's just where I mean, I it's funny. I don't even think I caught until a little bit in that she was supposedly this call girl. So I thought she was just like some regular.
Yeah, it's a strong segment to be as non-supernatural as it is,
right?
Compared to the other two. Now the second one is by far the longest segment of the movie, and I kind of made the remark that with a little padding out, this could have been its own feature film.
It could have been like the Gorka.
Yeah, it literally could have been easily its own film. I think it was that strong.
Right.
And this one is called The Wordelac, or the Wordelac, or however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, however, he kind of said it with like a
V. But it's worth running through the cast of characters just so you know what's going on.
Just so you could say Gorka.
Yeah, so I had to write this down. But so you have this main guy, this young guy, Vladimir. And Vladimir finds this corpse out in the woods or on the mountains. I don't know where they're at. But this corpse is headless, and it has a dagger stuck to the heart. So he kind of picks this dagger up as a souvenir and rides on into the town, into the village. When he gets to the village, he comes across a cottage which lives a rather large family. This family consists of Giorgio, his wife Rita, his younger brother Pietro, his son Ivan, a young son Ivan, and then his sister Sedenka.
That kid is a little creepy, too, by the way.
Yeah, the kid's really creepy.
I swear to God, I don't think he blinked through the whole movie.
Well, Vladimir comes in and he kind of basically decides to ask to stay at this cottage or whatever, and he notices while he's there, in a remarkable coincidence, that the dagger he has is an exact match for a set of daggers on the wall. And so, come to find out, the father, the patriarch of the family, Gorka, who is played by Boris Karloff, had gone out into the wilderness to combat this vampiric beast called the Wordelac.
Yeah, and he had like some other kind of name too. At that point, like he was like whatever his real name was.
Yeah. So
he was trying to kill people. He was killing people, and it was like known through the town, right? I think it was like almost like a serial killer type of.
Right, in the legend of as you find out in the story, the Wordelac is basically a vampire that preys upon his loved ones. He has an insatiable thirst for the blood of his most beloved.
Right, and like the more he loves them or something, the more he craves their blood, and he'll go after them, which I thought was kind of an interesting.
It was a kind of a neat take on the old vampire tale.
Right.
But the father warned that if he was gone more than 5 days, that he had probably been cursed, i.e. bitten, by the Wordelac, and was probably a vampire himself.
And I think he told him, he said, kill him, right? He said, if I come back.
If I come back. And he's, as we find out, he's been gone for 5 days. So Vladimir decides he's going to stick around and see how this all plays out. Yeah. And, of course, Gorka comes riding back into town, and he is definitely not the same.
Yeah, and the funny thing, in that interesting twist, it's like they kind of lose track of time, and it like he comes back they can't tell if he came back right after midnight or right at midnight, and they couldn't tell if it was that 5-day thing, which kind of added to the.
Yeah, there's this interesting element where you don't know if has he been turned into a vampire, or is he just like really beat up from the travels and stuff he was in, because he looks like hell.
Yeah, and he said he was injured. He had the stab wound.
Right, he had a stab wound to the chest.
And he's old. He's an old guy. 5 days out there, picture like you're like a grandfather out there, essentially. Like in the olden times when they don't even live that long to begin with. And he's like, comes back, and he's after 5 days of battle, and he's like, of course he's not going to be the vibrant person he was, if he ever was.
Hats off to Boris Karloff in this role, because having already seen him in the intro as a narrator,
right,
your thought instantly goes, well, am I going to buy that he's this character? Because I just saw him narrating the whole movie. But man, somehow he pulls it off. Like in this segment, I totally forgot about him being the narrator of the movie.
Me too. Yeah, you forget.
He embraced the role. And I saw a little trivia that he never blinks as Gorka.
He doesn't either? No. Neither does the kid.
No, like he never blinks. Like it's just this weird, wild-eyed stare. And
I got to watch it again now and see.
But so now the two brothers, Giorgio and Pietro, are now at a dilemma. They don't know whether to kill him or not, because what if he's just beat up from his travels, and they mistakenly kill their innocent old father.
Right.
But he could be the Wordelac. No, and then they're putting their entire family in danger. Well, as it turns out, they hesitate too long.
Yes.
So, of course, Gorka not only he grabs the child in a horrendous sequence, but he ends up killing both Pietro and the child.
Right.
So now there are 2 dead, and now they know for sure that the dad has been turned into this vampire. Giorgio is able to basically take the necessary precautions to prevent Pietro from becoming a vampire. I think they have to stab him in the heart and chop off their head.
Yeah.
I believe. He does that to Pietro, but when he goes to not kill the child, the child's already dead, but basically decapitate the kid, stab him in the heart and decapitate him. His wife just freaks out. She's like, "You're not doing that to my baby." And she threatens to commit suicide if he even touches her kid, right? So he ends up just burying Ivan. And of course, that proves detrimental to everyone's health.
Yep.
And this was one of the creepiest scenes since Salem's Lot.
Yeah, no, that kid, when he's just, oh my God, first you hear him, which is creepy enough.
Yeah, so one of the best vampire kids ever on film.
Oh, easily.
Like I said, compared to Salem's Lot, it's just, kid vampires are the creepiest.
He's Gage creepy, like that kind of from Pet
He's
Sematary.
Creepy before he's a vampire. So he's particularly creepy after he's a vampire.
Yeah, and he's kind of doing that little stagger towards the house oh my God, I was like, whoa, that's freaky.
So of course Giorgio tries to stop the child, and his wife actually stabs Giorgio to prevent him from touching her baby. She's still delusional, thinking
she's lost her mind.
Her son. Yeah, so now Vladimir and Zdenka are running for their lives because this whole family has been consumed by this vampiric curse. But unfortunately, another very creepy sequence, the entire vampire family, consisting of Gorka, the young boy Ivan, now Giorgio, and Rita, who have now also been turned into vampires, catch up to them. Bears mentioning that at this point, Vladimir and Zdenka have kind of fallen in love.
Right. Very quickly.
Very quickly. They're completely in love. So they think they're going to just run off away from all this vampirism, away from this crazy family, and live happily ever after. But unfortunately, the vampire family catches up to them in a very creepy sequence where they're all just kind of gathered round. Yeah. And so they bite poor Zdenka, and at the very end, poor Vlad just kind of succumbs to her because he knows that the only way he'll ever be with her is to let her turn him as well. So they kind of embrace.
And at some point, remember, the whole time he's telling her he loves her, and she really doesn't say it back. I think he's just so thrilled that she loves him back, but he knows that that's going to be his downfall. He doesn't care. It's kind of deep if you think about that sequence.
Yeah, and I've watched this movie a couple of times, and only on this last time did I really pick up on all the nuances of the story here. But it's pretty cool, and it's pretty clever.
Now that you said that, I would like to see someone. I'm not a big fan of remakes necessarily, but I would love to see it just a full feature film just based on this alone. But
it's
I
a cool
think
legend.
I just afraid it would be too much from what we've seen of other movies currently, that they would borrow too much from that rather than stick with the source material. So it would probably end up being a disaster.
Yeah, I just like the different take on a vampire movie. I mean, because you see vampires have been done so much, but this is kind of a different take on it. It's more of an animalistic type vampire. It's not like this guy in a flowing cape or something. These people are just kind of, I don't know. You just got to see Boris Karloff's performance to understand what I'm talking about. They're just very creepy.
He's so amazing in that.
But yeah, great segment, and like I said, could easily have been fleshed out to a 90-minute film on its own, I think, and would have still been a fantastic movie.
Yeah, and this was definitely my favorite out of the three.
Mine too. Although I have a soft spot in my heart for this next one because it is so creepy.
Is so damn it is so freaky.
Oh my god!
It kind of it's tough, but I think just for the whole everything about the Wardulac one, that was what made it edge out this one.
Yeah, I would say this is a contender for one of the creepiest final segments in an anthology besides Dead of Night.
Yeah, but because this one is I this thing literally could give me a nightmare.
Well, I will tell you this: I had just finished watching this movie at 11:30 last night, and I had to go into the bedroom. And normally horror movies do not freak me out. I can sleep like a baby after watching a horror movie. But for some reason, I went in my bedroom, it was pitch dark, and I had to close the closet door. because it was wide open, and I didn't turn any of the lights on, obviously, because I didn't want to wake anybody up.
Yeah.
But part of me I thought I was going to see that thing in the closet.
Oh God!
Like, I can't say that it didn't cross my mind a couple times, and it kind of freaked me out.
Well, as long as you didn't take the ring, you're okay.
No. Okay. So this one's called we're getting ahead of ourselves. This one's called The Drop of Water. So you have this nurse. Her name's Helen Chester. She's called to this house. The poor, I guess she's the servant or whatever. This old lady.
I don't know what she is. They don't really. I don't know if they actually say what she is.
So apparently, this elderly woman who owns this house died, and the caretaker.
I like your description.
Yeah,
with a horrible grimace on her face.
Yeah, the caretaker, or whoever she is, calls this nurse because it's the only thing she knows to do, because the elderly woman's died. She doesn't know what to do with the body, so she calls somebody in the medical profession that she knows, and says, "Come over." So this nurse reluctantly comes over. Helen comes over and to kind of get this body prepared or whatever, and when you see this body, this old woman died with this, like I said in the description, this horrible grimace on her face. Like, so what they did is they used this wax head, essentially. I guess it was, I don't know if it was wax per se.
Reminded me of like one of those, like that thing from that movie Magic. Like one of those Charlie McCarthy dolls made up to look like an old woman.
Yeah, it almost looks like a mannequin head, because it's obviously fake.
Yeah.
But it's so creepy. It reminded me of the final scene in Sleepaway Camp, where they had that head.
Oh, yeah.
But, obviously it was fake, but there was something so creepy about it that the fakeness doesn't register. Like, it just looks scary. I don't know how to explain it. But, so obviously it disturbs her greatly. But she does notice that this elderly woman has a very nice ring on. So she quietly slips that into her pocket. And, after that, she's continuously bothered by this fly. She knocks over a glass of water, and the dripping of the water starts to bother her. Oh, by the way, and I put this in there, this house had cats running all over the place.
Oh, yeah, it did.
I guess this was the old crazy cat lady that died, probably. But I had a side note in here, because I started laughing. Like, have you noticed in movies, every time there's like a lot of cats, or maybe even just one cat, they're always meowing. Like, they have to dub in cat sounds.
Well, that was like Gremlins had that with Miss Deagle. She had about 18 meows going on there.
And I'm like, cats don't necessarily meow all the time like that. My cats, you might hear them meow like once every 3 weeks or something. They don't, I don't know. It's just weird. It's like they almost gotta say, hey, by the way, there's cats here.
Yeah, in case you didn't see.
Just in case you see the 15 cats crawling on the screen, we have to dub all these meow sounds in. It's like, it's fine. Cats are fairly quiet. You can keep it quiet. But anyway, that was just so weird. It just made me laugh. I was like, why are the cats always meowing?
They hiss more than they meow.
Yeah. But anyway, so she's stolen this ring. This woman's like super creeping her out. This woman's body, I should say. So she goes back home, and she starts seeing the fly. She starts hearing this drip, drip water. Hence the title of the segment. And in this one, like, the suspense in this segment was like killing me, because I knew what was going to happen, having already seen it, and I did not want to see it again.
Was it?
It was sort of like the thing in Pet Sematary. Like, I knew it was coming, and I didn't want to see it. But
yeah, that's what that reminded me of too. Actually, this one short segment, which is obviously very short relatively. I think it was like 16 minutes maybe.
Right.
There's a couple of vibes, which I'll get to right when you're done with the explanation of like about so many other movies that have and I'll go over it after. But yeah, it's amazing how such a short thing could have so many things in it.
Yeah, but anyway, so she sees this woman's corpse on her bed, like looking at her, and then it like rises up and starts moving towards her. It is the creepiest
like
damn
the head
thing.
Turns.
Oh my god, it is the creepiest freaking thing I've ever seen. Oh, it is absolutely terrifying. So our poor nurse ends up literally dying of fright.
With the same creepy face, different creepy face on, but yeah.
Yeah, now this one, she actually used her real face, but she still managed to look pretty darn scary with her death throw or whatever. So the concierge who finds her body at the very end with a great little Tales from the Crypt EC Comics type twist, he takes the ring from her finger. So you could kind of think this might keep continuing. The cycle might continue. Yeah,
see, that was one of the things that it reminded me of, Tales of the Crypt. It had the Pet Sematary vibe. obviously with the ant and everything, and the biggest one, I think. And, you know, I know it's funny because it's like I don't think they probably it could be just a major coincidence or they got a lot of inspiration from this, but I totally got a huge The Ring vibe with this, between that little fly thing going on with the water.
Oh, yeah,
and
you're
how
right.
like it kept passing it on. You watch the tape, all these things happen in a row, and then you get killed. It was the same thing. You grab the ring, a little ring. Think about it. You take the ring, you hear
Ooh,
the
you might be
dripping
onto
water.
something.
You
Yep.
see the little fly or bee or whatever it was, and you know what's coming next, and it keeps getting passed on and passed on. And you can just assume this is going to continue because obviously something with this ring has a draw to it that
Oh,
everyone has to
man.
have it.
That's a good
So,
insight.
I mean, I don't know if this, you know, if it's obviously the ring was based on Ringu, and I don't know if that guy, whoever did Ringu, got the inspiration from this, but there's a lot of similarities if you think about it. More so probably to the modern ring that we saw. So, but you never know. They may have pulled, like, you know, got
Yeah.
some little twist from that and the original, so.
Now, the movie ends on this weird little... Obviously, Boris Karloff has to outro the movie.
Yeah, obviously he didn't have time to change costumes, though.
Yeah, but such a weird ending because... And I didn't
Yeah.
even remember this from the first time I watched. But... So they have Boris Karloff in his full Gorka makeup on the horse, basically wrapping up the film, and the camera pulls back and you see that he's on this mechanical horse and there's prop guys running around with trees in
That
front
cracked
of the
me
camera.
up in the circle. They're running around in circles with
So
the trees.
they're basically showing you how they filmed his scene.
You took
but
him to breaking the fourth wall. Oh my god.
Yeah, but it's so wacky, and there's like this weird
Oh, the music was cracking me up. It was like
music. It's almost like they thought, this last scene is too intense. We need to lighten the mood. That literally is the vibe I got. It was like this whole last story was so freaking dark. We have to like throw something funny at the end.
Yeah, but you know what? Normally I'd be like, it would kind of annoy me a little bit to do that, but for some reason it worked with this. I don't know if it's because it was Boris Karloff, or it just, I don't know. It just like had this. I don't know. For some reason it worked. It shouldn't have worked. It should have been annoying because you have these three terrifying tales. And then it's kind of like, hey, guess what? Kind of thing to it.
And maybe it worked because of the Crypt Keeper type thing. The Crypt
Maybe.
Keeper always has that kind of comedic element, and so it kind of reminds you of that.
Yeah, it could be that.
I don't
But
know.
I mean, this was like literally like almost like slapstick silliness it went to.
It was really weird. But anyway.
But yeah, it worked anyway.
God,
And
what a great anthology.
Yeah,
Great.
and I had never seen this. Tim had told me about it, but I had never seen it until now. And I am like, I was so glad that we picked this because this is one of now my favorite horror movies, like especially anthologies easily, but one of my favorite horror movies, period. Now, actually, I just loved it, and it's got it's got one of those things I like to when I describe it, it's like this is the perfect like rainy afternoon or like a rainy evening type of horror movie to watch. Like there's just something cool, like the visuals are impressive, the tales are engaging. It's just like literally like a perfect movie to like when you just want to watch a good horror movie,
Yeah, and it's very rewatchable too.
Yeah, like I could see myself always watching this easily.
Yeah, I mean, unlike some anthologies where there's like segments you want to skip or whatever, like all these are solid enough and have their own elements that it is on Blu-ray, and it has a audio commentary by film historian Tim Lucas.
Oh, I gotta get this now.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna have to pick this one up because
Yeah.
I knew I loved this movie from the couple of times I'd seen it before, but the rewatch just cemented it as one of my absolute favorites. So
Yeah, I think I'm definitely gonna. Yeah, this is definitely one I'm adding.
yeah, it's only
So
$17 on Amazon. So
Oh, that's nothing.
yeah, so yeah, we had a great beer pairing, which was really on the nose this week.
Yeah, it was Black Sabbath by Brunswick Brewing from Derby, England, and it's basically a stout, and I mean, what more can we say really? Why we picked it for this?
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, basically, if there was a beer called the Wordalac, I would have looked for that first, but I didn't find one.
Well, that's our next Kickstarter is the Wordalac beer.
We'll make a Wordalac beer. Yeah,
Wordalac IPA.
there you go.
It has bite.
Ah, nice.
So we had our trivia from 2 weeks ago because we didn't have one last week with our commentary, but this was regarding Gremlins. We were asking about the 2 movies being shown at the theater in town, at least on the marquee, and they were very significant. And why were they significant? That was our trivia question. And the answer is they were both working titles for 2 notable Steven Spielberg films. One of the films playing was A Boy's Life, which was the working title for E.T., and the other film was Watch the Skies, which of course was a working title for Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Which I gotta tell you is a really cool working title. Something about it is like perfect. Yeah, like I would have been like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Obviously, it's such an iconic title for a movie, and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But just thinking of it, like Watch the Skies, like sounds really cool too. Like if I saw a movie called Watch the Skies and I saw like the same imagery from Close Encounters, I'd be like, I'd buy into it just as fast as I did Close Encounters. So
yeah, A Boy's Life is actually one of my favorite books of all time. It's not any relation to Steven Spielberg, but it's
that's like the Robert De Niro one film.
Nope.
Oh, that's This Boy's Life, right?
Yeah, this one. There's actually it might just be called Boy's Life. It may not be A Boy's Life, but it's by Robert McCammon, and just man, it's kind of like Stand By Me, but with a lot of supernatural elements and stuff. Great book if you ever want a horror novel recommendation. And I mean, it's old. It's probably 20, 30 years old at this point, but it's really good if you like that kind of It and Stand By Me feel,
cool.
Nostalgia feel. It's a lot like that.
Nice.
The trivia question for this week is in regards to the segment The Telephone, and we've already said that it was an example of the giallo subgenre, but it was also significant for being the first for something. What was the first?
Yeah, this was pretty interesting for the answer, I thought.
Obviously, the answer is easy to find if you go look for it, but don't cheat. Just try to guess.
Try and guess. Yes.
So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that segment. I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you don't get murdered on Black Friday.
Yeah, or trapped on a Target shelf like I did.
Yeah, or stampeded to death.
Yeah, but listen, I don't care how good the deal on the TV is at Walmart. Just wait and wait for Super Bowl Sunday. The week before, they have really good deals too.
Yep, that's right. Yep, they'll still be there. The TVs just keep getting cheaper anyway.
Yeah, it's besides, but besides, what's going on sale at Walmart usually ends up it's like the TVs are decent, but they're nowhere near what you'd really want in the end. If you look at the specs, it's very misleading specs. Usually just a great size TV, but like usually the refresh rates are not great. So.
And just a reminder, we are going to take a little break for the holidays, but we still have 3 episodes left. So we will get a chance to do a couple of good Christmas films.
Yeah, we know we have one for sure, which we're doing.
We might could even sneak in 3, even though one will technically drop on the.
No, it'll be December 1st.
30 days. Yeah, it'll be December 1st. Yeah. So we could actually sneak in 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we know one will be Krampus, of course, which
I'm so excited to rewatch because I've only watched it once.
Yeah, I've seen it once in full, and then a couple times it was on cable. I've seen pieces of it.
Yeah, I refused to watch it again because I was like, no, I'm waiting until next Christmas to watch it. And this is my chance. So.
It's such a great movie, though.
Yeah, I'm thinking, and then obviously you can probably guess it, one of our other ones. So
yeah,
but yeah, we're looking forward to that. Again, hope you guys had a wonderful holiday and shop safe.
Yes.
Shop smart. Shop S-Mart.
Yeah. Oh, perfect ending.
See you guys.
Groovy.